Like, how is anyone gonna want to take sex serious if all they listen to is I'm out of town thugging with my rounds, my coochie pink, my booty hole brown? How? Hello and welcome back to my channel, Can You Like Not? And today we are going to be talking about the oversexualization and vulgarity in today's music. So let's get into it. Like a lot of people, I listen to music. I love to listen to music, but I've noticed today's music has become completely sexual and very in your face. There are a lot of up and coming artists today. One of the biggest artists that kind of just happened in 2024 was sexyred.
I'm out of town, thugging with my round, my booty hole brown. Where the I'm looking for the quit playing, come suck hoes.
Her music is vulgar and sexual, and it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, when they see me, they salute to have a juke goo. Some pink pumps, pink thumbs, and the tubes.
Music has always been sexual. It's always been very, you know, there's been innuendos. You know, music has always talked about sex like all the time. I want to know how we got from, you know, old school music like this.
My whole life has changed since you came in. And who can love you like me? Who can sex you like me?
To music nowadays, which is like this.
If I was a bad bitch, I wanna fuck me too. I wanna suck me too. I wanna suck me too. Fat, juicy, and wet.
Fat, juicy, and wet.
I don't even cookie so good, make me throw up.
How do we get from point A to point B? And I honestly really want to talk about how today's music has shaped our perceptions of sex and love and relationships and gender dynamics. Let's get into our first segment. Now, obviously, you know, with time, things are going to change. Things are always changing. The world is always changing. So, you know, I'd expect that music would obviously change for the better, of course. Music, maybe 20, 30 years ago, was typically sensual, had lots of innuendos. You knew what they were talking about. You knew what they were doing. You knew what they were trying to say, but it wasn't in your face. You got the classics like Marvin Gaye, Prince, Michael Jackson, all those people who would make sensual music that, you know, talked about sex, I'm sure, but they did it in a way where it was sneaky and subtle. And then we have today's music where there's artists like Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, City Girls, nlechoppa, Anna Leo, all those artists who have more of a vulgar, out there approach when it comes to talking about sex. I do want to preface that I don't think there's anything wrong with having vulgar lyrics or talking about sex in music. I just feel like that's what all the music is about nowadays. Like, I promise I'm not trying to be a prude. Vulgar songs have always been around. Nowadays, especially in 2024, people are just making some of the most nastiest lyrics. Everybody has a freak song. Everybody likes a little nasty song. It's okay, and that's okay. But I feel like, when are we gonna stop making the nasty song? When do we get to a point where we say, you know what, I think that's enough? I will say that a lot of artists know how to make raunchy, crass songs in a very creative and fun way. Like, when are people gonna stop producing these kinds of songs and actually start getting into something real? I understand that sex sells. I understand that sex is very popular, but how much sex is too much sex, you know? Like, that's the real question here. I want you to get into your brain and I really want you to dissect that. Now we're gonna get into segment 2, which is I feel like a lot of artists kind of try to remain a certain persona or have sex appeal because they are realizing that shock value and explicit content and just sex is what gets attention, is what gets the clicks and the views. That has really impacted the music industry and the music we hear today. Because people saw how successful sexyred got, they realized, oh shit, this is like catching on. Let me try. I will admit it. This shit is catchy. But because of that, I feel like new artists, instead of making music that actually has importance in depth and something that's meaningful, they're starting to change the game and they're starting to make more of their music very sexual and fun, but also very vulgar. Overproduction in that kind of music really takes away the value of music in general. If everyone's making freaky songs, if everyone's making real nasty songs, who gonna start making real music? Who gonna do it? We're gonna get into our segment 3, which is I feel like today's music, especially when you are a woman, listening to it can be sexually liberating or objectifying or both. It just depends on how you feel. Sometimes when I am listening to artists like Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, they do make me feel very sexually liberated and proud of my body or just proud of me and my womanhood. But sometimes when you do listen to that music, it also makes you feel like you are only worth your body, how good your new is.
You wanna know how it smells? Ask Santos, you know it smell well.
How well you are at sex, whether or not you can please a man. That can make you feel a little objectified or make you feel like your value only is diluted to those things. And that is not a good message. It is a very negative and harmful message to young girls and even to just women in general. Consistently listening to those songs and having that message constantly playing in your head that you're not worth a damn if you can't sexually please a man, and you're worth nothing unless you have an hourglass body and unless you have a good new
Fat, juicy, and wet.
unless it's wet and slippery and amazing. What does that tell young women? And because of that kind of music, it makes women feel like, wait a second, you know, I need to be all these things and do all these things, because if not, I'm not valuable. Another part of this that I want to talk about is how today's music honestly impacts relationships. The raunchy and vulgar lyrics kind of create very shallow outlooks on sex and relationship. These lyrics make sex and emotional connection around it less serious. Like, how is anyone gonna want to take sex serious if all they listen to is I'm out of town thugging with my rounds, my coochie pink, my booty hole brown? How can you think of sex as serious when you hear that? I do feel like today's music really pushes for people to have a certain attitude when it comes to sex, which is I'm going to get what I want out of this situation while also making the other person you're having sex with seem very inferior. I see that within men and women's music. Women talk about, you know, overpowering and dominating a man. If I come over late at night, bitch, we ain't doing no sleeping. He got a real good mouthpiece, but he ain't doing no preaching. That's just one of Mauna Lea's songs. Or we have music like, this one's from 21 Savage and Metro Boomin, which is called Glock in My Lap. Open your mouth when I bust. Suck me up slow, but don't rush. Having threesomes is a must. Hit it from the back and she cussed. Yeah, the songs are very, they're a lot to digest. Those are some of the examples of just artists dominating the individual that you're having sex with and making them come off very inferior. With this kind of music, this can really influence how people date. I think the music isn't the only problem, but it basically pushes people to pursue only casual relationships. They kind of make it seem like, you know, if you were to want to pursue more, you would basically be looking weak for wanting something more wholesome and romantic. Today's music only focuses on sex and, you know, what we can get out of each other when it comes to sex. They don't talk about the romantic shit. They make it seem like just pursuing sexual relationship and treating the person you had sex with as disposable is the right approach, which is obviously not. But in today's music, that's how it reflects, which ultimately does impact a lot of people's relationships, because now, you know, if you are listening to this music all the time, it's gonna make you feel like, well, maybe you shouldn't be just trying to pursue a relationship, that you should just go out and have sex and have fun. It's honestly, it's to each its own. Some people may enjoy that dynamic and may be okay with just having sex, but also some people may not want that kind of dynamic or may enjoy it. Let's get into segment 4. I feel like when I was younger, there were a lot of sexual songs. I'm saying, I'm not just saying, oh my gosh, it's today's music. Today's music is just full of sex, sex, sex. I'm not saying that. Sexual music has been around for a minute, even in the 70s and 80s and all that shit. What I am trying to say is that when I was younger, I was not hearing my coochie pink, my booty hole brown. Yes, there were sexual innuendos. Sex was not so crass and in your face. But now, sex and the conversations around it aren't subtle anymore. What I am saying is that children who are turning into teenagers and learning about their sexuality, I just feel like it's different, you know what I mean? Because sex is so on the platter, and I just feel like it really does not give kids enough space and time to really understand it and digest it. Because of today's music, the younger generation, they're not gonna take sex seriously. Let's be real. They're gonna think that because sexyred or Cardi or Lotto or Megan are talking about their coochie, and nlechoppa is talking about how he would slut himself out, and 21 Savage is talking about suck me up slow but don't rush, they think, okay, well, this is something that's popular, so let's do it. I'm not saying these artists are the exact cause or reason why young teenagers may be like oversexualizing themselves or jumping into sex too quickly or not taking it seriously, but they are part of the reason. Let's get into segment 5, which is there is still a way to talk about sex without repeatedly shoving it in our faces. I do think artists like SZA, Jhené Aiko, Summer Walker are still able to talk about sex with more depth, and they have more of an emotional piece in their music, which I honestly appreciate. You know, sometimes you do not want to hear about gotta wake me up to head or I'm cheating. Sometimes you don't want to hear all that. One song that I feel like is a great example of sex being talked about in an emotional way is Dance For You by Beyonce. The way she sings about it is not just sex. She does talk about sexual acts within the song, but the song is more of an emotional piece. They have a way of making it sensual, emotional, making it meaningful, where we're like, we know what y'all talking about, but you don't have to say it, we just know. There's this one lyric, she says, boy, look into my eyes while I'm grinding on you. This is beyond sex, I'm high on you. It's real, then you know how I feel. In Fairy on the Way by Jhené Aiko, she says, I got you sprung off in the springtime. Fuck all your free time. You don't need no me time. Just you and me time. I love that lyric because she's not just talking about having sex with this man. She wants to spend time with this man. Aww. Despite the name of the song, she's still very emotional about it. It's still a very sensual and meaningful song. Her song is a key example of making something emotional, raw, sensual, and real without having to say objectifying things when it comes to sex.
Fat, juicy, and wet.
She's talking about it from an emotional perspective, which I feel like a lot of artists nowadays are missing. And I just wish a lot of these artists who are talented would go back to making more emotional pieces. What sucks about it is that emotional pieces don't sell as much as the sexual songs sell. I have nothing against freaky ass songs, but I just feel like there needs to be a mix. There needs to be, okay, some freaky ass songs because everybody loves those. But then we also need a mix of some very sensual and emotional songs, and just songs that are not just about sex. I get we have freaky ass songs and we have some subtle but also very freaky ass songs. I want some songs that don't just talk about sex and relationships and love. I want songs that talk about all different types of aspects in life. One of the biggest examples of songs that I've been hearing that have just really made me realize, like, damn, I am tired of hearing about sex all the time, is Tyler Creator's new album and Kendrick Lamar's new album. Those are some fucking artists right there. It's so relieving and it's nice to not always hear about fucking. Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, they are doing it. It is relieving to not have to hear about pussy, dick, sex, humping, all that. I'm so happy to finally hear artists who are actually making real music. Like, I love an artist who has variety and knows how to not just make music about one sole thing. You can make music about multiple experiences, about multiple feelings, and I just really appreciate those kinds of artists, especially Kendrick Lamar, especially Tyler the Creator, because they know really how to dig in and compile sounds, melodies, music, lyrics, and create masterpieces. I feel like, you know, a lot of these new artists need to take notes. People want to hear something different. They want to hear these artists actually utilize their talents and make something so extraordinary. I don't want to hear a song I get tired of listening to by the third time I've played it. Icespice.
1, 2, icespice coming for you.
I want to hear some life-changing shit, okay? I think artists nowadays, they need to step up their game. And y'all need to really get into that notepad. Whip out the motherfucking pen and start writing so we can feel like we are coming off the ground. Let me know what some of the most creative, life-changing, beautiful songs that y'all have listened to. Put me on, because I'm looking for a change in my playlist. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Bye!